when they compared timber frame, traditional and modular, timber frame solution was coming up as faster and cheaper than traditional methods. It's happening in clear sight, but people don't see it. But there's a lot of major house builders at the minute that have their own timber frame factories and are building timber frame homes. 2023, 28% of new build homes were built with timber frame. If you look at, say, a 25-year mortgage or 30-year mortgage, that takes us up to 2050. And at 2050, we're deep into the realms of net zero. So if you're looking long-term, modern methods of construction really starts coming into its own.
Welcome to another episode of the Property Developer Show, the podcast. Today, I'm joined by Gavin Wilkes from Dynamic Build, who are specialists in MMC, modern method of construction. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
No, I appreciate you making the trip from the Midlands today, which is where you guys are based. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So we're based in the middle of Birmingham, and the travel up today it was good, to be fair. Good. It was easier getting here than it is getting into the office sometimes.
Well, you can't say that much about the M6 very often, but there we go. Great stuff. We'll jump straight into the action. What is MMC, modern method construction, and what are the categories and different build methods that come into that?
Okay, so modern methods of construction, I see it as a catch-all term, really. And the government, they've got a framework of categories, and there's 7 in total. And together, what it brings together is systems, products, tools, processes that improve productivity, sustainability, or quality in construction. Mm-hmm. So if you look at category 1, for example, that is volumetric modular. So an easy example that most people remember is school buildings, where they come on the back of a lorry in sections. They'll lift it, the different modules in probably a day. A couple of days later, it's finished and, kids are ready to use schools. That's obviously been trialled across residential, which went well in some areas, not so well in others. You've got category 2, which is panelised systems. That's things like timber frame, structurally instated panels. And then there's other categories which cover things like drone surveys. So rather than having people going multiple floors to investigate stages of work or defects, maybe you use a drone that will map the whole area and get videos of it. Other examples of it is pre-cut plasterboard. So typically you get plasterboard in standard sizes. Maybe you're doing a high-rise project and you have pre-cut plasterboard. So you haven't got people cutting the plasterboard on site and then getting all the waste back down multiple floors and out of a building. So maybe you have pre-cut plasterboard. And it's a whole range of different systems that improve construction effectively.
Nice. So when you're kind of approaching a project then, what kind of things are you looking for that will determine what sort of route you go down with the methods?
Okay, so for us, because we offer a range of services, for us it's more of we look at construction as it's a team sport. So I'm well into football, so I look at it as a team sport. So if you think of a football match and you've got, for example, a football. So with a football, on a particular day, depending upon the weather, the lighting, a few other factors, maybe a white ball is the best football to use. Whereas, so if we liken that to be timber frame, so depending on certain circumstances, a timber frame system may suit it. Maybe the weather's not so well, so a yellow ball is more suited to that situation. Maybe that's modular. So if we look at a modular project, then the first sort of things that I'm going to be asking when I look at the site is, firstly, can we get modules onto that site? Because they're coming in 3D format. Yeah. There's some major companies who have fallen that hurdle, where they've had buildings made in factories that they couldn't actually get to site, which is an interesting predicament to be in.
Absolutely.
So we look at that. We look at the teams as well. So if you're going down the volumetric modular route, where you're getting the majority of the work done in a factory, if our client has got in-house teams who can do a lot of work themselves, then there's not really much benefit in getting that done in the factory. Mm-hmm. So as well as the site, as well as the capabilities of our client, we also look at the budget as well. And ultimately, it's a case of, can this be done with traditional construction? if it can, and it can be done, in the timescales that everyone's happy with, then we'll say by all means, you should go down that route. If it's a case of volumetric modular is the best route for that project, then we'll put that forward. But then we go down another level below that. So we work with a number of manufacturers for each system. So we'll introduce our different manufacturing partners because, there's a factory and then there's a advanced factory, as it were. So we look at different factors to come up with the right solution for each project.
Sure. As developers, we're obviously looking for the cheapest way to do something, the most efficient way. And how does modern method sort of compare to traditional sort of build? Picture this plot of land, very straightforward. You can get near enough any system on there that, it makes sense. What would you be suggesting to a developer? Is it more cost effective to be traditional or MMC? So that's 3 shows down and just 2 more to go. After another successful show in Birmingham, our next stop is Manchester on the 10th of September, where we'll have 45 exhibitors, 12 keynote speakers, and over 350 property developers in attendance. Again, that's Manchester, 10th of September. And then finally, we're in Leeds on the 8th of October. So if you're looking to network, raise money, meet new business partners, find new deals, or meet amazing service providers, visit our website today to book your free ticket, propertydevelopershow.co.uk. I look forward to seeing you there. When the deal needs to move fast and the numbers need to stack, there's one name in property who you can trust: Vast Commercial Finance. Whether you're funding a ground-up development, refinancing a HMO, or you need bridging for your next big opportunity, Vast connects you with the right lenders first time. No endless paperwork, no wasted weeks, just straight talking advice and access to the entire market. And if you're not sure what kind of funding you need, Vast will guide you through it with real expertise, fast response, and a genuine interest in making your project work. They're not just brokers, they're partners in your growth. So if you're a developer who needs speed, certainty, and clarity, head to vastcommercialfinance.com and get your next project moving.
Depends on the model and the exit for the developer, really. Okay. So if you're looking at holding your properties, so you get some of the great successes at the minute with modern methods of construction is where properties are being held. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at, say, a 25-year mortgage or 30-year mortgage, then that takes us up to 2050. And at 2050, we're deep into the realms of net zero. Mm-hmm. We're deep into the realms of, people understanding EPCs. You're deep into the realms of almost discounted funding models, discounted finance for energy efficient buildings, and penalties for buildings are not classed as that. So if you're looking long term, then modern methods of construction really starts coming into its own. Mm-hmm. If you're looking short term and you're just looking to build and exit and sell straight away, then it depends upon a number of factors. But many years ago, there was a survey that was done at the point where the modular projects were sort of like starting to not deliver the results that people expected. And what they found was that when they compared timber frame, traditional and modular, that the timber frame solution was coming up as faster and cheaper than traditional methods. Now, that started a process where a lot of major house builders started to invest in timber frame factories. Right. And it's sort of like it's happening in clear sight, but people don't see it. But there's a lot of major house builders at the minute that have their own timber frame factories and are building timber frame homes. And there's lots of, if anyone Googles it, you'll see, there on the internet that there's big major house builders that have got targets to expand their timber frame and MMC offerings as we lead up to 2030, with the majority of them looking at between 25 to 30% of their homes to be built with MMC at that point. So it's already at the point where it's cheaper and faster. It's just that's where it's been done at scale. Mm-hmm. So for a developer to achieve that themselves, there's work that they've got to do to get that. It's not just a case of finding a manufacturer, pulling together a team and delivering it. there's a lot of work up front that needs to be done to get those results out of it.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. I mean, it's interesting how the industry is evolving. I think from where I'm standing, it seems that people have kind of are more receptive to these different types of methods. And I read the book, How Big Things Get Done. I don't know if you've read that book. It's worth reading, to be fair.
Okay.
And I think it's 97% of projects either go over budget or over time. But when you do modular projects, that percentage is reduced massively, basically. So the conclusion of the book is, modular is a better route potentially because of all the moving parts of traditional build that can change. Whereas obviously if it's factory built, it can just be delivered on site and assembled. That's kind of how the book sort of comes to its conclusion.
Okay.
Do you kind of see that on the front line?
Yeah, so there's different markets. So at the minute, when you look at modular, as in 3D volumetric modular, it works extremely well in certain markets. So if you look at, there's a company who are doing a lot of interesting projects down in London. They're doing high-rise apartments that are like 50 floors high.
Yeah.
So for those guys, it's a natural thing for them to do. Large projects, they don't really promote it that much. But obviously, if you're there and you can see all these modules being lifted in, then it's clear that it's modular.
Mm-hmm.
What you find is that the people who understand it and get it well seem to be scaling very quickly and not really broadcasting that they're doing it with modular systems. If you look at it in terms of the panelized side of things, if you look at it in terms of timber frame, for example, which is probably the most popular panelized system at the moment, then you've got SMEs and growing house builders who are using that as well. So there's been people on your podcast, for example, who are big into timber frame, expanding quickly, doing amazing things, but they probably don't go out there and broadcast that they're built with timber frame systems. So what you're finding is that the people who like it and understand it and get it are, scaling and building with it well. And then on the flip side, which is probably the market where I deal in at the minute, is where you've got people who have tried it, haven't got the right teams, shall we say, and have been scarred by it. And, they maybe want to try it again, but this time around, they want to try it with resources and support to make it go better. Or the other sort of people that I come across at events is people who have tried it. They've believed the hype that, all you've got to do is get this system in and it's going to automatically make your build be 50% quicker and more efficient. And then they've tried to do that with their same teams they would for their normal jobs. It's gone wrong, and that scarred them effectively. And they're not going to try it again, and they're going to tell everyone how bad the systems are, rather than looking at ways they went wrong, sticking with it, and going again.
I think that's the kind of thing, particularly from my perspective. The MMC sector to me seems that it's growing in a positive manner, but it seems that people are still a bit skeptical to move from traditional systems to over to the other side. But I suppose those that are doing it at scale are obviously always looking for efficiencies. Do you think COVID sped that change up potentially?
I think it has, and I think that things that have happened since COVID as well. So the cheaper conversation always comes up. And the issue that you've got at the minute is that construction isn't cheap regardless. So, I know how much we pay for labourers on our sites. I know how much it costs at the minute to go through things like building control. So, before, building control was it's just a little thing on the side really where, someone would come and take some photos. They'll have a few discussions. Whereas the level of information that we need to pull up front now on our schemes is greatly increased. But that's fine for us because we've got all the information up front anyway with the way that we build. So what we're finding is that since COVID, construction costs have gone up. it's harder to get labour. Since COVID, the regulations have increased as well in terms of building regulations, and that's in terms of stringency as well as sustainability and energy efficiency. So since COVID, I think so many people struggled with costs of increased costs going up, and material shortages, which is another thing that MMC can help with. So there was things that happened during COVID and since COVID, which is pushing a lot of different people now towards modern methods of construction. And then with that storm as well, you've got that modern methods of construction has changed a lot since COVID as well. Because a lot of the people who had big factories, big overheads, they've had issues during COVID, and some of them closed down. It's open facts. Whereas some of the other companies who had panelized systems, for example, they've seemed to have grown as well. And the panelized shift it's easier to move from traditional to panelized than it is to move from traditional to full volumetric, for example. So yeah, the industry it's growing a lot at the minute.
Sure. Is there any sort of incentives from the government or are they kind of maybe perking up a little bit to support the sector at all?
Well, there was a lot of support, but it all went into, a lot of it went into the volumetric guys. And, so they had massive amounts of funding, and, they did some of the work, they did some great, some obviously not great. But at the minute, at the levels the higher levels, that I think there is funding that goes into there to accelerate it and to improve the efficiency. There's funding that can be going into the factories as well. So at the minute, the funding seems to be going into the factories, where you're looking at improving innovation, creating more jobs. And then on the flip side of that as well, you've got some government organisations who are putting incentives in if you use elements of modern methods of construction. But it's understanding how those mechanisms work and making it work for individual developers, really, which is art.
Is that something you can support developers with?
It is something that we can support developers with. So what we're doing at the minute is as well as building for other people, the natural step for us is to start doing our own developments as well.
Yeah.
So we're looking at it from a point of view for us to start doing our developments first, almost. And then I prefer to do things first before I start trying to, get other people involved and drag them along with me. So it's something that we're looking at the minute, so that we can then add that to our offering as well for other developers.
Absolutely. So just going back to the timber frame scenario. So on most sort of tier one developers now, the Taylors, the Bovises, that's the kind of route that they're developing down.
So the first house that I bought was 20 years ago now, almost.
Right.
And that was a timber frame house. But the only reason I knew it was a timber frame was because when it was being built, I went to have a look and I saw that it was timber frame. So on that development, there's a couple other hundreds of homes. And I would say the vast majority of people on that estate probably don't even realise they live in a timber frame home. So that was 20 years ago. And there's figures from government organisations which suggest that in 2023, 28% of new build homes were built with timber frame.
Right, wow.
So it's a growing market. There's, just from the sheer number that have been built now, there's obviously mortgages that people can get on those homes. There's insurances that people can get on those homes. And there's a lot of investment into the factories by major house builders who are going down the timber frame route. There also is another part of the market, which is more high-rise and student accommodation, where they're investing in the volumetric side of factories, and they're having more vertically integrated models. So rather than procuring items outside of their organisation, they're sort of like, putting it all through their organisation, which streamlines their whole operation and reduces the cost of building homes. But at the minute, it looks like panelised is definitely pushing the way forward on that side of it.
Amazing. And I suppose with that sort of hopefully drives the price down slightly for, SME developers to get access to that market as well through competition and various suppliers.
It does. In part, it does, yeah. So as the industry grows and becomes more competitive, there's only so many houses that you can build at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So for more houses to be done by timber frame, for example, or panelized systems, that means there's less houses being done by traditional methods.
Mm-hmm.
And that economy of scale grows. But it's how quickly it's either how quickly you start doing it now, because you don't want to be left behind.
Of course.
And it's also having the right teams and how you go about procuring it. So if I touch on how we do it, so effectively we take out layers and layers and layers of profit. So if we go to one organization to give us all of the materials for the house, as well as install it, as well as deliver it, as well as cranes, then we've got layers and layers and layers of profit effectively. So what we do is we break it down to different categories, and we get the right equipment from the right manufacturers. We've got teams of labor who come in and install and do that side of it as well. We've got logistics companies who do the deliveries. So the way that we break it down, it makes it cost effective. But if you're coming into this marketplace and you're maybe going to the first company you see on Google, then maybe it's going to cost you a bit more than it would if you've done a bit more research and deep diving.
Sure. Where do people start then? Let's say they're used to, or they're looking to get into that type of space, or they've been doing the traditional builds, potentially looking at MMC as an option. Where does someone start?
Okay, so with my background, so I've been in the industry now for 20 years. So I started off working for market leading companies, doing volumetric buildings at first. So that was after a number of promotions. It was large scale healthcare jobs with NHS. It was retail with the likes of Tesco. It was big education projects. It was projects where like speed, efficiency. It was like modular. Mm-hmm. After I'd done that for a decade, I moved to a panelized market leader. And there it was timber-based system. Again, it was education market. It was large-scale residential projects. So what you've got is you've got MMC at scale, which is one way of doing it, where you've got resources. The manufacturer may partner with a construction company who's also got resources. You've then got a client who has also got resources. So that is one type of way of delivering projects where it's fairly safe, but it's going to cost you a lot of money effectively. Mm-hmm. After I left the market leading side of it and started working with smaller organizations, what I found there was that you had systems that were being made with timber frame and sit panels and what other systems we were looking at. But there wasn't the resources around that, shall I say? Mm-hmm. So if you're a developer going into it fresh, the chances are you're going to end up at this part of the market where you're going to get a system. It may be a ICF system, a timber frame system, a sit panel system, but it's what are you getting effectively? Are they just going to deliver that system to you and you've got to install it yourself? Are they going to deliver the system and give you an installer? Are they going to deliver a system and package up it where they're actually managing the install, which isn't as prevalent as you probably think? So the first thing you've got to do is understand different systems and the level of service you're getting from each provider. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you another example. So if we look at a system, I won't pick one because it wouldn't be fair. Yeah. But typically what they'll say is that it's going to be done, it's going to be faster, it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be more economical and sustainable. Yeah. But if they're only giving you, say, a wall system, so you've got your walls now, you've still got to do a roof, you've still got to do an intermediate floor, mm-hmm. you've still got to do windows, cladding, first fix electric, first fix plumbing. You've still got all these other elements that you need to do as well. So that system in isolation, there's only so much that system can do.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that as well. It's understanding that there's all these different elements, which goes back to my analogies about football. It's a team. So you need a system, but you also need a team to deliver that system. And you also need an element of reality as well. So before I left this morning, which was quite early, there was a coffee advert that was on. And there was a lady on there, and, she was struggling for whatever reason, but she started having a cup of coffee, and, the next thing, she's running a marathon. Now, common sense tells me that, yes, she's had that coffee, but there's other steps that must have been between having that coffee and running a marathon. Mm-hmm. But when you look at modern methods of construction, typically people don't think of those steps in between. They just think, right, I'm going to buy this system because it's marketed as being all these things. Mm-hmm. And hey presto, I'm going to get these results at the end. So it's understanding that as well. And where they go to is someone or people who can help them get from a product to an end system and the end result that they want. And that typically isn't the team who will deliver a traditional project for them.
And that is Dynamic Build Group.
Effectively.
That's a plug. Great stuff. I mean, I think people, particularly with the sort of knowledge that's out there at the moment, and the fact that it isn't new really, but it's becoming more popular. I think people are kind of becoming more aware of what's available, and I think it is a bit of a minefield because traditional build is very pigeonholed. People know and understand what that method is, but then you start crossing the bridge and there's all these different systems that they all proclaim to be the best system, of course, because that's how it works.
That's how it works.
But of course, you've got to look at it from a practical perspective, and I guess the breadth of knowledge that you have within that sector, essentially that's 20 years worth of knowledge that allows you to go, right, well, I think that's probably the best system in this circumstance, and this is the reason why. So really it just comes down to, which most developers should already know, is who have you got in your team that has that knowledge, rather than trying to go out there and go, right, okay, I'm going to speak to X, Y, and Z, figure out how those systems work, and then make a decision based on the conversations, because there's just no way you're going to know what the most efficient route is.
Correct, yeah. So we work with a range of manufacturers, and it's similar to the coffee advert. So, if I change coffee for, Usain Bolt's running shoes, just because I go out and buy his running shoes, it doesn't mean I'm going to be, the fastest sprinter in the world, effectively. Unfortunately. So, although I did used to be quite fast. Okay. But, so when you look at that, what you end up with is, so let's just say that I'm a developer and I'm going to 3 timber frame manufacturers. Now, all 3 of them are going to upsell what they do. And, you can have a walk around the factory, and quite often I'll speak to developers and they'll tell me what they're going to do. I'm going to go to look at a factory. Now, when I go to look at a factory, I'm looking at how are they making the panels? Is it on a table with a few pieces of wood on the end of the table to square up the panel? How's the timber cut? Is it cut by hand? Is it cut on a CNC machine? How are they nailing these panels together? I'm looking at how are they cutting the insulation. I'm seeing if the guys on the shop floor, have an idea what they're doing, or whether they're just guys that they're hiring in just to do that particular batch of panels. I'm looking at how they're lifting the panels and storing them. Are they putting them outside? Are they protecting them from the weather? I'm going to see what quality control procedures they've got as well. So who's checking it at different stages, and even little things like when they package up a batch of panels, are they having a list on the outside so you know what's in there? Because when it gets to site and I've got my lads installing it and it's just a load of wrapped up panels of wall systems, that's going to cause us an issue. When people are going to a factory just for a nice day out and to see a factory, they're just going to have a look around, and it could be a nice factory, could be a poor factory. If you're not there knowing what you're looking for, then sometimes you may get blurred just by the scale of it all.
Of course.
Or so sometimes there may be a small factory that actually is more organised and more set up to deliver what you need than a large scale factory. But unless you know what you're going there to look at, so yeah, I don't go and look at a car. I don't go and look at And the minute I'm driving a Polestar, but there is other makes of cars, I don't go and look at the Polestar factory before I get a car because I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, yeah, but with this field, MMC, people seem to think, oh, I'll go and look at a factory. Oh, it looks all right. But whatever they're doing in that factory, once that product hits your site, it now becomes a construction project.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have the best system in the world, but once it hits site, you then need a team on site who know how to put it together. And these guys in the factory, although, work in manufacturers all the time, and there's great ones, there's some not very great ones, but, not many of these guys will come to your site to help you to resolve problems, is what I'd say.
Right, okay. Yeah. It's basically, there's the product, now it's your problem type.
That is what you need to guard against. So it's like if the manufacturer's going to come out and help, fantastic. But if they're not, and you haven't got someone in your team who can, then you need to make sure that you arm yourself up with someone who can.
Absolutely. That's good advice.
Yeah.
In terms of your favourite system to use, costs out of the window, nothing is relevant. What is your favourite system to use and why? Just very quickly interrupting this episode, have you got a property deal in mind? Want to build or grow your portfolio but unsure how to obtain funding? No problem. At Roma Finance, they love to lend. The borrower-first approach means Roma deliver flexible, tailored solutions that accommodate the diverse needs and experience of developers across residential and commercial projects. With a flexible criteria, Roma take time to understand each borrower's unique circumstances. Roma's attentive team are always equipped to handle and take on your requests. They will guide and support you throughout the property journey. Colleagues and customer relations are the beating heart of their business. Don't forget to explore Roma's website, romafinance.co.uk, for helpful resources, including articles and case studies to guide your financial decisions. Remember, Roma Finance love to lend. Your property goals are only a call or email away. Now back to the episode.
Right, so at the minute, for me, just based upon variables. So if you look at a timber frame, so we've got a project at the minute, and we're using a SIP system. So effectively, a SIP system, it's two outer sheathing, sandwich panel, insulation in the middle as a core. And so that gives you a insulated panel, which you can use as walls and roof, for example, typically. So we've got a project that's next to us, and we talked about the price of our system, and the homeowner was like, why are you paying so much? And I was like, right, what are you getting? So he's getting a timber frame system. So timber frame is timber stud walls with a external board sheathing, which gives you a timber panel. Now that panel can come open, as I've just said there, or you could put insulation between the studs, which gives you a insulated panel. Mm-hmm. Now, unfortunately for this homeowner, he didn't read through his specification very well. So what he got was, he got a open panel timber wall system. He got a open timber roof, which is just basically timber joists on his roof. And he has to insulate between the boarding on his timber frame walls. So when I went through the quote with him, and I said, right, what you've got here is what the quote says. It says you've got a timber frame system and you've got insulation, which is going to be installed by others. So I said, so this is what you've got. So it took here he had two guys putting the insulation between the studs for about 3-4 weeks. And then they had to do it on the roof as well as board over the roof and then put the insulation in there. Mm-hmm. Whereas at least when we use our SIP system, firstly, we know how to check quotes to make sure we know what you're going to get anyway.
Of course, yeah.
But when you've got a SIP system, you know it's coming as a insulated panel system. You may have different types of insulation. You may have different variables with it. But effectively, you're getting an insulated panel that creates the walls and the roof of a property very quickly. And it's very energy efficient. ICF is making a bit of a rise as well. And the good thing with SIPs is that you can have ICF as a wall system, And then you can have SIPs as a roof system, which again creates a highly insulated envelope. The projects that we're looking at the minute, they're A-rated EPC worst case. And the main one that I'm putting a lot of my time and effort into at the minute, it's the energy positive one, where the home creates more energy than it uses. So the SIP panel system for that is really good. Moving forward, we've got some other products that are coming on the market more for the affordable side of the marketplace. And for those ones, I would use a timber frame system because it's more economical and it gives you good performance levels, but it's like horses for courses, shall we say. So for me, I haven't got a favourite, even though you said you wanted one.
Yeah, it's all good.
But if I was looking at if I went along the three favourite ones we've got at the minute, it's timber frame, SIPs, and ICF. You've got light gauge steel, which is, that's another good system as well. But for us, you got bio-based products as well with hemp. You've got a raft of different systems. But for us at the minute, we're just focusing on the systems that we've got teams for, that we know that we can deliver, that we've got all the data and all the rest of it to deliver as well. So those are the three systems that we're focusing on at the moment.
Amazing. I mean, to me, the only thing it highlights is the fact that people probably need to have a conversation with you before they even sniff around MMC. So what is it exactly that, because I know, but obviously the people that are listening don't, but what is it that Dynamic Build Group do? Okay,
so we are a construction and development company that focus on accelerating the delivery of energy efficient homes. And the way that we do that is by combining technology, modern methods of construction, and on-site construction as well. So effectively, we can cover the whole spectrum of the life cycle of a project. We've got a 5-stage process, which starts off with the define stage. Sounds a bit like design, but it's purposely define. And what that does, everything that you would put in a classic pre-construction phase. So it's everything before we start construction effectively, we can help with. We then go into the supply. We've got manufacturing partners across the different systems that we build with. All of them are accredited in terms of being able to get a mortgage, building regulations, insurances, all the key things that you need if you're building houses. We then move into foundations, which is stage 3, because every property needs foundations. So we've got teams who can do at the economical range. We've got guys who come in as labour. We'll hire plant. We'll get all the materials and all the rest of it in, and we'll manage it on a day-by-day basis of the foundations being put in. On the bigger projects we're looking at, then we've got teams who will come in and work in a different sort of way, shall we say. But either way, we do the foundations. We've then got install, because you need to install the system as well. So we've got installers who will do that side of it and make sure it's installed in line with the manufacturer's guidelines, which is quite critical. And then the final stage of that is build, where we could take it from a insulated envelope of a house, and we can do all the works through to completion. Now, the benefit of the 5 steps is that we don't have to do all 5 of them. So depending upon who we're working with, we can either do all 5, or we can do 1 or 2 of the steps, and we'll just integrate our teams in with developers or client teams as necessary. But yeah, the main thing that Dynamic Build does is we build energy efficient homes, and we give our clients an ecosystem to simplify the delivery of modern method of construction homes.
Amazing. And if people want to get in touch and they're interested in working with you, how can they go about that?
Well, I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so that's an easy place to find me, and it's Gavin Wilkes, Wilkes. Trying to use Instagram, but I tend to forget quite often on that one. Yeah. But what you'll get on there is stories. So you'll typically see stuff that's not on LinkedIn. It's a little bit more flexible, shall I say, and it shows a bit more of what's going on behind the scenes. So stuff that I'm just on site or something's happened and I'll do a quick video or photo that you'll find on Instagram, and that's _Gavin Wilkes. And in terms of the company, you can find us on any reputable search engine.
Cool.
And that is on the Dynamic Build group.
Amazing. Well, appreciate you coming on today, Gavin.
No worries, absolute pleasure.
Hopefully people have got some insights to the MMC world and hopefully not put off by it, but understand now that they can have a chat with you and understand the systems a little bit more. And there is a lot of depth that goes into it, but it's certainly something that people should look towards, definitely.
Agreed, yeah. So it works at scale, it works on small jobs. It's just that it's understanding that you need a team or an ecosystem to deliver the full benefits of these systems.
Amazing, great stuff. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in. As always, please do like and subscribe. And if you're listening to the audio version, please do leave a review. Hopefully you've taken some in-depth information on the MMC sector, because it is very broad, and obviously Gavin can provide some guidance. So it's definitely worth reaching out if that is something that you want to sort of look at. We'll see you again soon. Take care. All the best.